My name is Ashley Forsyth, and I am the owner of Health and Fitness Meals in Salt Lake City. I have with me here today Margie Keates. Hi, Margie.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So Margie is the owner of the Lovely Ave. She also, which is a paper florist shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. She specializes in handmade flowers out of fine crepe paper from Italy and Germany. She has been featured on a number of wedding magazines, including Utah Valley Bride, HGTV, and Country Living Top 100 Most Creative,
People.
Most creative people, as well as being featured by Martha Stewart herself. She does a really great job of just marketing herself and growing her own brand, and I'm just excited to have her here with us for the interview today. How are you doing, Margie?
I'm so good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited for this. So first off, we're going to talk about how did you get involved in this line of work?
So I started making my first paper flowers for my own wedding in 2012. And I was just doing what every girl did back then. I just kind of scrolled through tons of Pinterest posts and was trying to get inspired. And I was paying for my own wedding, so we were already running a little bit low on our budget. And I found this paper flower bouquet, and I was so inspired by it and so excited to make something, or at least even the ability to try to make something was exciting. So it was made out of scrap. Actually, the one I found on Pinterest was made out of book paper, just sheets of paper. So I decided to go to Michael's, which was weird because I'd never been into a craft store before. I didn't do artsy things. I graduated from the University of Utah in exercise sports science. I'm a nerd. I'm not necessarily a crafty person. So, but then I started to find a little bit of templates, and I just made my own flowers. But then after the wedding, I kind of put my stuff away. I didn't really want to make that stuff anymore because it was I was tired. I made 400 flowers for my wedding, and then I just kind of wanted to go back to my normal life. But I kept getting more and more people asking me to make flowers randomly for gifts. And I started to notice that it just made me a lot happy. I'd come home and I'd want to make something, but what I was making, I didn't feel was at least not, I wouldn't say good enough, but it wasn't exciting until I found a paper florist on Instagram that was incredible at what she was doing. And she was kind enough to show me the type of paper she was using, because she was making flowers. And I'm like, I don't have any idea how you're even creating that. So she shared with me where she was receiving her paper from, and I ordered my first roll at the end of 2014 and just kind of fell in love with the ability to make these flowers out of this really beautiful paper. Put it on Instagram, just kind of like an impossible idea, maybe people will like it. And it blew up so that we were able to start a website in April 2014. And I was able to quit my job very, very close around that time frame. So that's kind of how I started, though, was for my wedding.
That's amazing. And I actually know Margie from forever ago, from junior high.
Yeah.
So I remember when you were getting married and when you were making these centerpieces. I remember at a girls' night, you kind of showing them to us, and everybody just being oh, that's so cute. That's so awesome. Good for you. And it's crazy that it just came into a full career. I definitely want to, there's something that you put on the interview that I just wanted to basically do a little timeline for. That's really awesome, is that Margie opened her Instagram January 2015. You quit your full-time job in March 2015, and you launched your website in April 2015. And I remember when this was happening, and I remember you just scary to just quit your regular work and be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this, and let's hope that it works out. So
yeah.
Another thing, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I know you. So we were really, really great friends in junior high when we started going to school together. Margie, you've always been creative. You've always been creative and artistic. More than anything, Margie's the loudest person in the room anywhere. She's crazy. Loud voice. Always life of the party. Always the I don't know, the person that would be noticed, I would say, in any social situation. And I know you've always just been so fun, and I'm so glad that you're doing something that you love all the time. I mean, you've got your flower shop is it downtown?
Yeah, so we just have a really cute studio that we got super lucky to find. So it's not technically open to the public, but we love when people want to come tour it. But it's an art space that we share with other artists. Like we have our own private space, but it's kind of an open floor plan. So what I love about it is that you get to have this like almost creative energy that goes through that building. And so you get to know the people that are creating around you, and it gives you fuel to keep pushing and making more beautiful things because they're doing it. But yeah, we got super lucky finding that space. It's in an old building that has terrible AC and terrible heat, but you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. And I couldn't do this in the house anymore. I mean, we grew so quickly in the first 2 years. And it didn't make sense for us to try to find a space at that time because everything, like I said, I mean, I quit my job and I'm very, very lucky that I have an amazing husband who's been my #1 fan and huge support, but also kind of holds me accountable. Like, if you're going to do this, you're going to do this the right way. You need to get a business plan going. You need to have your domain set up. You have to have your tax ID. Like we treated this seriously. Not that I'm saying others didn't, but it wasn't as simple as like, okay, I'm going to quit my job and like, I'm just going to stay home. Like I really wanted to do this the right way, especially if once I decided to put 100% of myself into it. Because when it first started, it was just me wanting to have a way to express something. I don't know. I was bored with my current job. I wasn't sure what I was doing. And as Ashley said, like I have that personality type that I thrive off of making people happy. And so that's why I'm usually the loudest or whatever, mainly a clown, but it's fine. But my job wasn't giving that to me. So like, it was really frustrating. I'd come home and I'd just be sad and that wasn't normal for me. So finding paper flowers was huge, but I just wanted to do it right. So I don't really know where I was going with that. I totally just kind of went around in a circle.
You're pretty much leading into the next question, so I'm going to post it up. And Margie, can you move your head up a little bit more? Thank you. You're not cut off. All right. Yeah, that's good. Perfect. Okay, so the next question was, how did you actually make this final leap into working for yourself? So I'm so proud of you because it's so much just to like quit your steady income, quit your 9 to 5, like know that you can rely on that, walk away from it. Don't know if it's going to be back there for you when you return, and you don't know if this income is going to fully make up for it. So I really want you to talk about that journey for us, because there's a lot of women out there that aren't really confident in themselves, maybe have something that they want to do, but yeah, talk to me about that.
So that jump was definitely aided by the fact that I did have do still have a very supportive husband. But we were smart about it. So everything kind of just fit so perfectly into line. There were certain things we were trying to pay off that were paid off by the time I wanted to start this. And so I feel like there was a bit of fate, but a lot of it had to do with trusting the product and trusting myself. And then knowing that I'm going to have to work really, really hard for a very long time. And then also remembering that any money that the company did make within the first 2 years wasn't really going to come to me at all. It needed to go back into itself so that it could keep supporting itself. So we just needed to live sparsely, and I had to stop shopping all the time and start going out and eating with friends, and that was a hard change for me, but there was certain sacrifices that I was willing to make because I was so much more like immensely happy being able to do what I was able to do. So that leap, the main fear about it was just I'd always wanted to work for a corporate company. I never wanted to be my own business owner. I loved the stability of working for a corporation. And I loved knowing that I didn't have to make all the decisions. So I think that what's hard was I was so afraid because everything was on me. So there was this fear of failure. And it wasn't until, and Jenny Tadioka, mm-hmm. one of our close friends, I went over to her house and I expressed this fear with her before I even expressed it with my husband, because we were just chatting and I was kind of opening up a little bit and saying, I think this is what I want to do. And she's like, well, why don't you do it? I was like, well, I mean, this is terrifying. This is hard. I think I'm going to fail. And that sucks. And she's just like, well, what happens if you fail? And I'm like, well, then I failed, I guess, but then I would just go back to another job because I'm educated and I'm smart and I can figure it out. She's like, yeah, so you failed, whatever. You either keep trying or you stop, but is it going to kill you? And I'm like, I guess not. And it was so empowering to all of a sudden go like, okay, it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to pass this up. Like, I have this opportunity, let's try it. So that's kind of really what teetered me to move to take the jump. And also knowing that I couldn't do this in a part-time way. Like, I couldn't work 40 hours a week, then come home and try to do this from 5 to 12 5 to midnight, and then all weekends. Because that's what I was currently trying to do from January to March. I was trying to do it that way. And that was exhausting. And I wasn't creating good work, and I wasn't creating good content. And I was starting to, it wasn't working. And it was at that moment that I'm like, I got to do this 100% or not at all. So that's kind of how we did it.
So you mentioned a lot that you did, not every woman has this, but I mean, Chris is great. He's your husband. I mean, something for, I guess, the viewers is that they're high school sweethearts. I remember when Margie met and started dating Chris. You guys worked together at Best Buy and no, I can't believe I remember that. But so they're high school sweethearts, and Chris is wonderful and supportive, and so it was financially a little bit had that support to kind of break off on your own, and that's wonderful. I'm going to talk specifically with you, because when you got started, you had some potential partnerships. You had some people that were wanting to go into business with you, that were wanting to start that, like maybe like, and tell me about like why you were considering that, and tell me about why you didn't do it, because that's, I think, a thing a lot of people think in the beginning is like, it's maybe easier or less scary to start with other people.
Absolutely. And that's exactly why it first happened. So I started making more and more flowers, and there were some people in my life that were older than me and more successful than I, and had started businesses before. So they approached me and were very excited about the idea that I had, and in a way really, really wanted to help me. So that was exciting for me. I mean, I was already terrified about how to do this in the first place. I had never thought that I wanted to start a business. So they were telling me that they were going to help me with my website and my text, like all of these things that sounded so daunting to me. So I'm like, hey, if I get to just be the creative person, like, heck yeah, let's do that. So yeah. And there are amazing partnerships out there, but what ended up happening was they were trying to do it right at the very start. So they wanted to get an LLC put together. And then when we were reading over the contract, they wanted the way that they kind of were starting to break down even the company, even before we were able to see if there was a market before. This was way before 2000. This was in the start of 2014 was when we were like possibly talking about this. So there was no Instagram yet. There was no interest yet. And they were already breaking it down where they wanted 60% of the company, which was really shocking to me and really hard. And it was one of the very first times, even before I knew what I had, that I was forced to fight for myself. Because all they were bringing to the table, they weren't even bringing money to the table. They were just bringing this knowledge of how to set up a website, set up all of the like business side of things, which terrified me. And they saw that. And so I feel like they thought, and I was naive, and I will fully admit that I was very naive, but I believed in my product more than that. And I definitely knew that I was worth more than 40%. So especially when I'm the one creating the product. So I quickly walked away from that situation, which turned out to be the best thing for me. And what it did was it gave me a sense of empowerment. I knew that I could fight for myself, and I knew I needed to fight for my product. That first fight helped me gain a bit of a tough skin so that I could learn how to keep fighting for certain things in the future. And then it forced me to figure things out. So like I needed to start asking for help from the right people. And I needed to learn certain things for myself. So then I was able to set up my own website. I was able to figure out my tax ID information. I was able to do my first set of tax. I still do my taxes, which are terrible, awful, very hard, but you can do it. And what I needed these people to almost really try to take a lot of my company up front to force me to figure out how to do it. But it was really, really hard. And that was probably the worst 2 weeks of that whole process, because it took me 2 weeks it wasn't like immediate that I was like, yeah, whatever, I hate these people. It took me 2 weeks to be like, well, but they said that they would figure everything out. They said that they would help me. Like it took me a while for me to go, this is unacceptable and I'm not okay with it. And so, yeah, that's why I said no. And I know for a fact we wouldn't be where we are if we would have stayed in that situation. We would have immediately had a power struggle. We would have immediately had issues with making decisions. And I don't think that I would have worked as hard as I have worked to get where I am because it wasn't fully mine. So
I think I'm so proud of you for walking away from that situation. I think that's a big mistake that a lot of early business people make, including myself. And if the business is your idea, if it's your baby, if it's your passion, if you're the talent behind it, I mean, people give out percentages of their company just to get going, to get a little bit of money, to, I don't know, get some people that are going to take care of things. But I mean, what they don't understand is that like your company, your percentage, your stakes in your company are invaluable.
exactly.
And for somebody who you can pay to do something for you, it's not worth it. It is not worth it. I mean, at least get some value. I mean, like if you're going to do a percentage so small, you need to maintain full ownership of your company. You need to maintain enough stake in it that you can offer it, that you can use it as things. So, I mean, even like a huge money silent partnership, I mean, small percentages, 10,
Yeah.
5, I would even say.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about possibly getting a huge influx of cash from investors right now. And it's terrifying because you have to start talking about how you're splitting up the company, which has stopped me from even doing anything because it's like, well, I mean, we're in this really weird situation where it's like, well, we need to grow the company and we need to grow it past past me and the couple of people that we have. But then how do I still keep control? How do I still keep the majority? How do I do that? Just because someone's willing to upfront a ton of money. But I have a better knowledge of this now based off of what I had to do 4 years ago with this previous partnership. So, but yeah, I mean, not a lot of people know that story. That's actually one of the first times I've told that story on a public forum, just because I'm not one to talk poorly on this. And the last thing I wanted to do is come across as me bad mouthing these people. I do think that they were coming from a place of seeing an opportunity. I don't think that they were trying to necessarily screw me. But it definitely came across that way, and we needed to part ways from that. So it's good.
The very first thing that you did was start the business off with 100% you. So that good for you. I mean, if you would have given up more than half of you to begin with, you wouldn't have had any of these bargaining chips right now.
No.
And then for, the money and investing that you're getting now. I do believe that it's scary, but most all small businesses start off handling everything on their own.
Yeah.
I, for one, never planned on being a business owner, and you get a crash course and you learn to do everything until you can't, and then you hire out help. But it's worth the money. It's not worth the stakes in your company. So I'm really glad for that, and I think that's something so important for our viewers and for other women to know and see it as. And I mean, I'm like you. I never planned on going into business for myself. I never went to school for business even. I didn't really know anything about business. So it can be really intimidating for somebody that knows about those things to come up and they think that they can own you, buy you, make money off of you, because people can go to business school but not have a real entrepreneur spirit, not have a real thing that they want to start. And that's the thing, is they'll have the knowledge and the skills, but they don't have the love, the passion, the things you can't go to school and learn about. And I think it's important that every woman knows that should not be for sale for them, for anybody, and be really careful about the partnerships that you enter into. Tell me about, I know this question's taking a little bit more of our time than I wanted it to, but I think it's really important. Your husband supported you just, by being your backbone and financial things, but I mean, does your husband own any of the business?
No. So, and that's not, I
want to expand on that because that's wonderful. So as a supportive spouse, talk to me about how he owns 0% of the business and what a husband does to support somebody for something that he isn't a part of, because I think this is a very healthy boundary. I think a lot of marriages interchange too much, and where they shouldn't. So
well, so first things first, Chris, he never wanted, how do I start this off? He's always supported me 100%. He's always been my number one fan. He's been there when I've been working until 3 a.m. He'll come out and bring me a glass of water, or when I'm sad about something, he'll hold me when I'm upset or tired or whatever. And then he'll be there and being the loudest one cheering when we get really great accomplishments. So he's there 100%. Emotionally, and he was there for me for the first year financially. He didn't put any of his own money into the company per se. So everything that the company needed to do, that was based off of my savings, and the way that, obviously it's a little personal, but that's the way that our finances were set up we've been together for 12 years. We've been married for almost 5, and we've always kind of just been very independent when it came to that. We kept it separately. We paid everything 50-50 kind of thing like that. So when I decided that I wanted to quit my job, it was a conversation that I needed to have with him, because it was basically saying, I need a year for you to cover everything. So he did, in a way, put money into the company by basically covering everything else. But like I said, we didn't go into this stupidly, like I had a ton of debt and like car payments or things like that. We made sure to try to pay down as much as we could with my current salary and stuff like that. So there was never a conversation. There was never okay, if I do this for you, then I want X. Never. I think he saw this as my opportunity and my baby, and it's funny because whenever I've had major projects come through, I've never thought like, oh, he needs to come help me. It's like, no, I need to find help somewhere else. And I've even asked him sometimes, I'm like, hey, would you cut this paper? And he's like, no. But it doesn't mean he doesn't support me 100%. It's just he knows this is mine, and that I have to put the work in, that I have to work hard, and that he can handle everything else, and he can love me and support me. It's just like if it was my career. Would I tell him to come do my work at another career? Absolutely not. And same thing with him. Like, he has his own career. He's happy where he is. He's doing his thing. I'm super, super proud of what he does. But it's his, and this is mine. And that's how it is. I mean, obviously oh my gosh, I don't want to put this out into the universe, but obviously if we were to split, we would obviously have to figure out how that would work. But legally, he is not on any of the LLC. He's not on the LLC. He's not, he doesn't have anything into this company. But I will 100% say that the reason that this company is what it is because of Chris. Does that make sense? Like, I wouldn't have been able to do it without him. I still can't do it without him. He is the backbone of it. He just has no financial stance in it. And what that is just pure love and support. He doesn't need the financial stance to be there for me. He's there for me because he believes in me. And that's magical and definitely necessary. The women who do it without spouses like that, I don't know how you do it. Like, Ashley, I don't know how you do this. I don't know how you do it every day. You're incredible, because I come home and I need that. I need him to be like, you can do this. I know you can do this. But I did luck out with a husband who didn't need that financial incentive to support me 100%. So good for you guys, and good for Chris. I think it takes a really strong, confident man to be able to take the back seat and let his wife take the spotlight. And I mean, obviously you've been so successful, so good for him for just his confidence and, not
being able to do that and everything for you. So I'm so happy for you in that. So
Thank you.
And I do think, and it is relevant to our partnership conversation, because I do think your spouse is, in some way your partner, whether not on paper or not. So yeah, we can go to the next question. This is basically, if you had one piece of advice from your experience that you would leave with women today, what would it be? And let me change the question on the screen before you get to that. So okay, so it's like basically your takeaway advice for businesswomen.
My takeaway advice would be to trust yourself and to believe in yourself and to stand in your own power, know your worth, and be really crazy confident to know that you've done that. So anything that you want to do or anything that you're currently in, take a moment, because I know that us as a society, we tend to try to stay and to try to be humble. And I'm not saying that you can't be humble while also knowing your worth. And I think that that's important. The more that I'm in this business, the more that I almost have to stop and remind myself even more often now where I've come from. So I've actually been journaling this journey since the beginning. And it's so fun to look back and read about the things I was going through a year ago and how they're nothing compared to what I'm doing now. But it doesn't feel like I've grown, or doesn't, like, sometimes you get in your own head and you're so hard on yourself. So take that moment to see what you've done, revel in it, be happy about it, pat yourself on the back, but then be humble, and know that you have way more to learn, way more to grow, but at the same time, like, you're obviously doing something right. So that's one thing I would do is, like, trust yourself, feel your, like, the empowerment that you have, know your worth, and then be consistent. That's what's helped me is consistency. I try not to change our brand too much. I've definitely done different things in regards to the product we put out, but the consistency behind the product, why you're doing what you're doing, is very important. So the last thing I would say is know your why. My why is I love to bring happiness and joy into people's lives, and the ability to bring something new to someone is so crazy fun. So when you tell someone that you make paper flowers, they're like, oh, okay. They've never really, like, I don't know, they don't know what paper flowers are until you show them a photo, and then you see how they're reacting to your work, right? So that's how it empowers me. It gives me so much life and excitement, because I'm watching them go through something that most people don't get. Like, it's so empowering to see someone look at something for the first time, and you're the one who created that, and they're excited to see it. So anyway, know your why. That's important. It's going to get you through those 100-hour work weeks. It's going to get you through the slumps when you don't have a lot of work. And I hope that why doesn't revolve around making money. I hope that why doesn't revolve around your success, or how many magazines you're in, or what you've done. It shouldn't revolve around that, because if that is your why, it will be really hard to succeed, because that's not that, or at least in my opinion, I don't feel like that will push you hard enough. You won't become a better person if that's the reason you're doing it. And I'm not to say that obviously money in business is a good thing. I'm not that naive. Obviously, we need to do this for a reason. We need to have sales. We need to have income coming in. But it shouldn't be the reason you're doing it. So know your why, and make sure that why revolves around something that's not monetary.
I think I couldn't agree more. So I literally have talked to people, and I'm like, seriously, if you don't love what you're doing, none of your clients are going to love what you're doing. They're going to see right through it. They're going to see right through what your primary motivated factor is. And I can honestly, I never meant to be in business for myself. One, I just had a passion that overwhelmed it and, like, took over my life. And truthfully, I can look at people and be like, I never, like, freaking wanted to be a successful businesswoman. That was never my goal. My goal was never to be, like, a millionaire and make lots of money. Was never anything underlying. That was never a goal in my life. It's still not. It's just fun. It's just funny.
Exactly.
But all right. So The next thing that I wanted to talk about is the advice column portion. So for other businesswomen, I thought the thing that you do specifically well is doing collaborations with other companies. It was one of the huge markers that made you grow with your following so much. And for a lot of people, equates directly to business right now. If people are following you, if people are watching you, they will become your consumers, they will become your clients. So tell us about starting off your Instagram. Tell us about all the awesome collaboration projects that you did with different photographers and different people that just really, really got you moving, got you on the map, got everybody watching you.
Yeah. So remembering all of them is going to be hard. But yeah, when I first started, I knew that the easiest and cheapest way for me to get my name in other people's mouths and get recognition was to collaborate. And we are very lucky to live in a city and in a state where there's it's a saturated market, especially with photographers and talented, creative people. So I just took it upon myself to send an email a day, sometimes more, and I would get a lot of no's, and then I would get a lot of yeses. But one thing that worked in my favor is that my product isn't perishable. So if I wanted to collaborate with someone, I would be gifting them my labor and my time, but my product came back to me. So that's why I tried to collaborate as often as possible, was because I was able to receive the product back and then sell it. So then that helped, and it wasn't perishing. And so that's what's a little bit harder with some collaboration projects, but at least for me, in my first year, I collaborated at least twice a month, if not more. And then that kind of got the ball rolling. What I did know, or what I learned pretty quickly, was to not pay attention to the following number on who I collaborated with. At first, you would think you want to collaborate with someone who has very high followers, and that way that you get to see the most eyes on your product. And what ended up happening was that I realized that some of these people who have high followers don't have followers who actually engage. So they're not actually seeing it. And I was giving product away, or I was working really hard on these projects with people who didn't really mend well with my brand, but I was doing it because of their following number. And so what ended up happening was that I did a collaboration with someone who with really low followers, but every single one of her followers engaged with her. And I not only received the most following back from her and kept I received good followers who would engage with me, but then I received great orders and amazing doors open from that point on. So that would be my one suggestion with it, is obviously collaborating is a great opportunity for you to grow. It's a great opportunity for you to meet people in the industry that are still now my friends. I mean, I have photographers that I can reach out to anytime now because we've collaborated multiple times. So it's a great opportunity for you to gain access to these amazing people, but just make sure that you're doing it with the people that mend well with your brand, so that following transfers over, and that you're not giving away your product all of the time. You can't say yes to everything. It's okay to say no. So now we collaborate once every 6 months to a year, because we don't have time anymore, and because we need to be careful about what we're doing with our brand. So the first year was obviously a free-for-all. We're trying to get it out there, and now it's calmed down a little bit, and that's okay.
But you've built your empire, you've got your following is ridiculous. So it's like you're established and you get to be pickier. But I think that in the beginning, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so, but in the beginning, even when you're watching out for those people, don't be afraid to say no to the people with smaller following if they work perfectly with your brand. If they're exactly what you've been looking for, but they only have 500 followers, it's still 500 people. That's something, and it would be free. So go for it. And you never know, because that's actually what happened to me. The best collaboration I ever did was with someone who had smaller following than I did, but I still have seen doors open from that collaboration. And that's what matters, right? You're doing it so that you can get better avenues, that you can get fresh eyes, and good friendships out of it. So that definitely helped me in my first year, was collaborating and figuring out your brand pretty quickly, but also being being open to changing that. You know, we started out really heavily in being in the wedding industry. And after a year, I realized I didn't want to be in the wedding industry. That was really hard. And so I needed to be free to open it up to different avenues. So that's what we did.
All right. So I just wanted to touch point based on a few things that you said. So you were sending out so many fillers. Like you said, an email, how often?
I was trying to do 1 to 2 emails a day, sometimes more. And I was constantly looking for new people to work with. So that was probably the first 6 months that I was trying to have as many collaborations as possible. And then that quickly opened some doors to people who were willing to pay for commissions, which was exciting and everything we needed. And they ended up being with bigger companies. Like, for example, there's a company called Shabby Apple. They're a dress company that they have multiple shops. Yeah.
Oh, so I love this picture.
Yeah, that picture, it was our very first commission. It was in April of 2015. So it was like right when we opened up our website. It was our very first paid commission, which is really important to us. And it showed me I could do hard things. Like, it was a huge wall. It was 8 feet by 8 feet, full of flowers. Took me 2 weeks. Well, I had 2 weeks to make it. And I worked every single hour of those 2 weeks, I swear. And, you know, when it ended, I just went, okay, I figured out that I needed to know my worth, because what I got paid for that was not nearly what I should have gotten paid. I figured out that I could do hard things, because that was so hard. And it taught me that what collaborations could do. There's no way that I would have found that opportunity without working with, you know, other people beforehand. So yeah.
I loved it. I remember when you did that project, and it was so amazing. I love going to the mall and seeing it. It was gorgeous. I was like, you did that. That was my friend. It was amazing. Look at those flowers. Oh, it was so great. And I love, you guys should go look at her, follow her at the Lovely Ave and go check it out. It's like a big wall of roses. It's gorgeous. But so okay, so lots of fillers is our first tip. Like, send out your fillers to as many people, because the worst that can happen is people say no when you're working on collaborations. Were you looking for specific skills? I know for you, you say photographers a lot. Was there anything else? You did some wedding stuff. Like, tell me about the types of people you were looking out for and reaching out to.
So I was reaching out mainly to photographers because I needed pictures of my product, because I didn't have a website yet. So I needed better photos of what we were creating. And so mainly I was finding wedding photographers. So then that opened up a lot of doors to get in with the local magazines. So my very first magazine opportunity was actually with Utah Valley Bride. It was at the end of 2000, and I believe it was the end of 2016, because we got the cover photo, which was insane. I didn't know what was happening. So when they came out and I saw my bouquet on the cover, like I'm pretty sure I died. I was like, oh my gosh, like what happened? And so that opened up a lot of doors in regards to weddings. And then that opened up even more doors nationally. So then we started getting picked up by national blogs. And again, all of this is because of good photographers that I was finding. And then I was able to make great friends with other people. But the first person I reached out to, and I probably still do, is I work with photographers first, and then we pull other people in to make it work. But yeah, the national blogs opened up doors to places like HGTV, places like Country Living Magazine. We got a huge commission last year with Tommy Hilfiger, and part of the reason they found us was because a huge bride blog, national bride blog, shared our work, and they found us through there. So like, yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing, the reason we do collaborations is that we're able to do these styled shoots so that they were able to get reposted on these huge national blogs. And then that's how other large companies find you. So I think I answered your question.
Yes. Oh, that's so awesome. I think that I've taken a little bit more time on this interview than I usually do. No, I love it. I knew that you had so much good information for everybody, and I've been loving all of this. So we're just going to do the last question, which is the question that you have for me that I'm going to answer. What specifically do you want to know for me? So after you ask the question, I'm going to put it up on the screen, and then I'll answer it.
Okay. So I want to know, if you could spend a day with anybody, who would it be and what would you do?
Okay. It's too long. I'm trying to like shorten it.
No, you're fine.
Okay. All right. I told you that's a hard one for me because I definitely don't have a lot of like celebrities or like people that I follow or like think that I look up to, but I think I would choose Pink.
Yes!
Because I think she is a badass woman. I think that I think that she's crazy. I think that she's fun. I think that I think I'd have a blast with her. And I think that she's just a strong female example. I like her music, but not even as much as her music, because I just like her. I like her personality. I like her individualness, her quirkiness, her vulnerability, and I think she'd be a blast.
Yes, I love that. I also love that she doesn't apologize for who she is, that she is herself and she's truthful and she's never really changed ever since. I mean, she came out in the era of like Christina Aguilera's and Britney Spears, and bless her heart, she was like, this is who I am and this is what I'm going to be. So
yeah, she even had like a song. She's like, I'm not going to change my look or who I am for this. And that's what I liked about her. She wasn't like selling her sexuality like I think a lot of women do. She was just very much like, I'm going to have short hair and I'm going to rock it pink and I'm going to wear whatever I want. And it's not, it wasn't about that. It was not about how sexy can I be, how pretty can I be. And I mean, God knows she's gorgeous, but that's just not what she sold about herself. So that's admirable. That's awesome to me. So I like her a lot.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks so much, Margie.
Thank you,
so
Ashley.
excited to have you today. Okay, so we need to have our summer pool party soon, and you better stop hiding. So let's get together. All right.
Okay.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.